can be, I mean, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
But at the moment, we would rather deal with what we have, make it right.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda who have made Museveni the issue, I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Deeply incisive.
The different political forces that we have in the country, we don't seem to really have achieved that minimum political consensus over certain things.
Authentically symbolic and insightful. Behind the Headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charlse Odongotho. All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Very warm welcome, I want to welcome you to this edition of Behind the Headlines this Wednesday, October the 13th, 2021, and we are going to be looking at two topics. We are going to be looking at the Dubai Expo. How can Uganda benefit from it? What has gone right so far? What are the challenges that we as a country faced at the takeoff, especially during the opening, the Uganda Day, and the activities that went on? Of course, so many reviews of the beginning, but we are going to be looking at all those dynamics of the Dubai Expo from Uganda's perspective. We will also be looking at the second topic, which is going to be the new opposition front, and what is new in it? Can it benefit the country? What are the questions and that we need to be asking? To discuss all this, we have the Honorable Minister in charge of Information and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi. We have Mr. Morrison Rwakakamba, who is from the Uganda Investment Authority. We have the Honorable Ibrahim Semujunganda, who is MP. He represents FDC in the 11th Parliament, but is MP for Kira Municipality. And finally, on my immediate left, we have Councillor Sarah Birete, who is the Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Governance. Ladies and gentlemen, you are all welcome to the show, and I want to warmly welcome you to this sitting. We are going to be starting with the first one, the Dubai Expo. And I've been told by my producer that Rwakakamba now, in his new position, will only attend the first segment. He is now a civil servant? Not civil servant, but he is uncomfortable discussing the second topic, which is more political and partisan. So we shall allow him the liberty to excuse himself when we get into the hardcore discussion, if that is his wish. But we would like to have you. Of course, you are a political animal through and through. If you can stay with us in the second topic. But let me start with Rwakakamba on that note. As Uganda Investment Authority, you were involved in the active preparation of the Dubai Expo. Of course, I know that the preparations were led by the Uganda Export Promotions Board. But let's start from quickly making some clarifications. Back home, there were a number of negative, sharing of information, negative, saying, why did you send MPs? Why did you send so many government officials? What did these ministers go to do in Dubai at the Expo? Did they know what they were going for? Did we achieve, what did we achieve from the expo as Uganda so far?
Well, I think the chief marketeer of Uganda is the president. And at Uganda Investment Authority, we consider President Museveni as the chief investment promoter of the country. And I can tell you that when he arrived in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, it was self-evident that is the case. He was extremely very articulate and presented Uganda as the destination for investment and articulated the journey that shows that Uganda is now the right place at the right time for strategic investment of the country. So the presidents and the ministers and others, came in to support those strategic objectives of marketing Uganda across the world. But I think I need to be very specific in terms of what were the core strategic objectives of this expo. One was to showcase Uganda's investment opportunities, negotiate and sign deals with potential investors to attract foreign direct investments into priority programs of the economy. And these are agro-industrialization, mineral development, tourism, manufacturing, energy, and digital transformation. The strategic objective number 2 of this expo was to identify joint venture partnership opportunities for domestic investors for affordable financing, market opportunities in those priority programs. The other key core objective that Ugandans must engage with was to benchmark best and competitive investment policies, focusing on textiles and recommending them to the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development for implementation. The other was showcase Uganda's strategic positioning within the East African community, the COMESA, and the Africa Free Trade Continental Area Market. Number 5 was to promote Uganda's trade exports and connect with the new trade opportunities and potential investors in value addition. Number 6 was to promote Uganda's unique tourism and wildlife attractions for increased tourism receipts. And number 7 was to enhance bilateral relations between Uganda and the UAE and the rest of the organizers that are participating. And I think President Museveni heavily delivered on that, especially this bilateral issue, because we know that now the ruler of Dubai will be coming to Uganda to reciprocate, and we strengthen the ties. But Ugandans must know that the UAE and the entire Middle East is very, very strategic for Uganda, because their purchasing power is so high, but also it takes almost less than 5 hours to evacuate our products from here to that huge market. But already, almost 200,000 Ugandans live in that space. So there is already a very serious connection. So the question would be, how did you deliver on the core objectives that I have mentioned? I think that would be the question. But Ugandans must first of all know that the expo is running for 6 months.
Yeah.
So for the few weeks that have passed, if they have at all, we managed to sign investment deals that are almost at least over 1 billion by the time at least the team that
by today.
Well, yes, and I actually carried
over 1 billion.
Yes,
dollars.
Yes. And of course, these are prospective investors who signed letters of intent between Uganda Investment Authority, investors witnessed by the Minister of Finance, and those letters of intent were clearly studied and cleared by the Attorney General, to be able to be applicable. And these investors flew in from all over the place, from Turkey, from the United States, from the UK, and flew into Dubai after protracted conversations and negotiations between Uganda Investment Authority and those investors. And they put pen to paper. And we believe that for the next few months, at the end of 6 months, would have achieved the objective of 4 billion and perhaps more.
What do you plan to do in the next 6 months, 5.5, 6 months?
Yes, but also, before I forget this one other point, which I think is very important for Ugandans, is that we're also laser focused on making sure that we partner our local investors here with the prospective investors for joint investments. And I will give you an example. Like, Imagine Pharmaceuticals is a local company that linked up with Guangzhou Worldflow pharmaceutical company, which is very big with branches across the world. And they're they will be investing $50 million here to make testing kits and other pharmaceutical products. So for me, that was extremely very
Going forward, the next 5 months, what are we going to be doing as a strategic action, strategic activities that we are going to be engaged in?
The second day was Uganda Day, which was very powerful, but there will be an agriculture day, there will be thematic events that are happening, first of all within Uganda's pavilion, but broadly from the strategic negotiations, we continue to engage investors. Our team of Uganda Investment Authority remains there in Dubai, engaging investors to ensure that that strategic objective of 4 billion in 6 months is achieved. And I can tell you, across the UAE, in the Arab world, and in the foreign place, in South Africa and everywhere, Uganda was being praised as the only country that has managed to sign those deals. So, in spite of the happenings on our social media streets and other streets, I can tell you that globally, the vibe was very fantastic. But also, some of us, having been also on those streets, believe that the vehemence of Ugandans to really hold us accountable, to hold the officialdom accountable, to try and find out what's going on, and engage and share ideas on what they think is not correct is okay. And as the officialdom, we must respond by explaining, and that is why I'm here.
Okay, good. Honorable Semuju, there was a lot of that, negative publicity. Okay. The positive is already converted. For us, they converted. But we need to answer to those that are negative so that we can bring Uganda together, if anything, and achieve that, what do they call it, minimum consensus for Team Uganda, as they say in football. Honorable Semuju, did you think from Parliament, from your perspective as an MP, that the representation of Uganda at all levels, selling Uganda brand, was sufficient? Was it necessary to have MPs, so many ministers? Did we get value for money?
It's a very difficult question, especially if you're asking me to judge colleagues. I have followed the World Expo in Dubai. You are calling it Dubai Expo. The World Expo in Dubai. I was actually in Dubai when they won the bid to host. And they even fired the level of euphoria in Dubai that would be the one hosting, because it is an opportunity for them. I want to find out whether it's going to be an opportunity for others. But my own reading, the level of publicity, the level of preparedness, Dubai wants to benefit from the World Expo. There may be others, including Uganda may, but the main objective of Dubai, because I have kept telling people, Dubai's economy is built on 3 T's: trade, tourism, and transport. So they want to keep the world going to Dubai. But you also need to understand, I think the last time I looked at the report of the most visited cities, I think Tokyo was #1 for about 3 consecutive years, followed by New York. Dubai was #3. And they continue fighting because Dubai was #5. They wanted to be #3. Turkey, Istanbul had been #7, and they said they want to be #5, and they started constructing and equipping health facilities for medical tourism. They looked at medical tourism as one thing that is going to bring the numbers that will make them the #5 most visited city. Uganda, the first time this matter was discussed in the Parliament, I think the Honorable former Speaker Rebecca Kadaga had visited. because countries started preparing early.
Yes, like
Dubai
next year.
provided the space, they constructed those arenas and then allocated space to each and every country to begin constructing
Their stores.
their stores and how you want to present yourself. Uganda had been hesitant. I remember Parliament summoned the then Minister of Trade, Honorable Media Chamber, to come and explain, and she said this thing is going to be for a whole year. We will, as usual, Uganda started preparing late. Many of the things that I saw in the media, for me, they didn't bother me because really it will be a miracle that Dr. Kama and his team will go to Dubai in that short time and get people to invest in Uganda. Some of the mistakes we make, you remember Al-Walid came here. I later learned that the reason he came to Uganda, he actually wanted to see a lion. That was the reason he came here. He had an opportunity to fly with the president. The helicopter eventually gave him Shimon, not very far from where we are sitting, to construct a hotel. And the decision, of course, he left here, as Morris said, they signed deals. These papers they will sign, but they don't mean anything. Because what his investment team did was to camp at Entebbe, and at the end of a week, they said Uganda does not have traffic for a 5-star hotel. It will be a strategic mistake to put a hotel there. A country that receives 1.8 visitors through the international airport a whole year. And as simple as that. The serious businessmen don't make those decisions at Expos. They will certainly send their own teams here. They will do feasibility studies. Like I have told you, after flying, of course, they gave him an aircraft. He went, saw the lion, he came back. He was given Shimon, he went away, asked his teams, technical teams, and they said, no, this country can't manage a 5-star hotel. I have been in Dubai many times. First of all, the Dubai itself, to get them to invest in your country, they had the decision-making process is a very difficult one. I have gone there for simple decisions, and you can take a whole month. A decision, I think Arabs by their nature, a decision they have made today in the evening, he will speak to you like he has never seen you again. And then you start afresh. The time they flew us here to Dubai, we went for, and then they said, on arrival, you wait for 2 weeks, we will call you, but we have already arrived. One of my other colleagues stayed there, and after, he said, for me, I'll stay here. After 2 weeks, they say, no, 1 month. So they are not very simple people to bring to invest here. But I will be glad that actually those deals were signed. I am skeptical that the nature of those expos, you will go and attract investors and they will actually come here. Okay. Because businessmen don't make those rash decisions that they have seen you and they're excited and you present a very powerful speech and they say, I'm coming to invest. No, they don't. Okay. A lot goes into that. So therefore, I want to advise Morris, there are people here who know the Middle East market. Because Uganda keeps making mistakes. I was in Saudi Arabia about 3-4 years ago. Saudi Arabia wanted to do some farming within Saudi Arabia, and I told them it is going to be very expensive. You can do farming, but in countries where the weather and soil is good for it. So they made a decision to come to Uganda and Ethiopia. I was at the embassy, Ugandan embassy. When Saudi Arabia came here looking for land to do their own farming, you know, the real bureaucracy of the NRM government and people positioning themselves, eventually they abandoned Uganda. They are doing their farming in Djibouti and Ethiopia. In the Middle East, it will be very difficult to attract people to come here, but it is easier to go and access their market. What we are doing now in the Middle East at the moment is competing with Ethiopia in exporting domestic workers and gold recently. that gold, I am suspicious. I think part of it comes from somewhere else, and it's only refined here and it goes there. And when you look at the money that is coming into the country, they will tell you now we get, I think about more than $2 billion, I think, from that gold. Part of it comes from somewhere else. So therefore, the market for, and we need to understand how the world works. Recently I was in Turkey. They have bogoya, fake bogoya. So I said, why, I was asking people at the Ugandan embassy, why don't you promote our bogoya here? We begin. They said, you see, the international trade is very difficult. Brazil are the suppliers of fruits to Turkey, and they cannot allow anyone. So they have signed contracts with Turkey, will be the supplier. And I think Turkey also supplies something else to Brazil. So they will need a lot of hard work for us to go and get that money. The money is there. I want to ask Maurice to find time after the expo, find people who understand those markets, and then return. Okay. Otherwise, it will be very difficult that you've gone to the Dubai Expo and people have signed. They will be like Al-Warid. They will sign, see the lion in the park, go, and they will never come back.
Good. Sarah, there is something I want you to start on. When Morrison says we have so far signed $1 billion, people, before I bring in the minister, I want Sarah to start on this. As someone shared with me some interesting figures of what Uganda actually invested, and Semuju talked about the week preparations that we had. The Indians, you know, spent, I'm told, $150 million in preparation. Rwanda spent about $5 million or more. Kenya, about $30 million or more. Gabon, which is a country of about 3 million, 2.5, Gabon. It's a small country, almost the size of Botswana, perhaps, in population. They spent $6 million. Uganda, and Morrison and Honorable Baramusi will tell us after Sarah, by the time the president was being prepared to go, or was preparing to go, we hadn't, I'm told we hadn't even spent about 200 million shillings, Uganda shillings, in preparing for all this and our stall. Do you think that this kind of preparation is, and from last year, like Semuju has said, the minister Chambade addressed Parliament, I think, if I'm not mistaken, around August or July, June last year, but we could not prepare in time. Did we miss an opportunity? Can we recover? Can we get value for money if we don't put in any money?
You know, Charles, most countries started preparing for the Expo in 2016.
Wow.
And
as early as that?
Yes. Dubai actually, in the process of bidding for this Expo, it is when they constructed that 7-star hotel that is on the island, surrounded by water, which is an amazing asset. And so people have spent almost a decade preparing for the Expo. I don't know when Uganda started preparing for the Expo, and I could be right, but I can imagine that it might have started maybe with Morrison's leadership, because Morrison is a hands-on person. So that is like last year, mid-last year, if they started early. So if you have people who have prepared for the Expo 7 years ahead of you, and for you, you have done it for 6 months, and you are there, even the way, you know, the information that came out and from the exhibitors, how they were contacted, the flow of information. You know, there was evidence of knee-jerk approach to our participation in the Expo. But I have also seen communication saying $3 billion was allocated for the Expo, And there was even debate on whether it was worth it to invest this money amidst COVID and the skyrocketing public debt, and whether it will benefit the country in terms of even mitigating the skyrocketing public debt by generating revenues. The information that came out was not very good, but maybe it's what they could do. We don't know what they were racing with, but the chief is here. Amidst the pandemic, amidst the scarce resources, and the debate on whether that was the right expenditure to make for us as a country at this material time, and then the manner in which exhibitors were invited, exhibitors, you know, how they were treated in Dubai, it did not show very good preparation. As to whether we shall get value for money, you know, the information shared by Morrison is very exciting. But as he was presenting, saying they have so far signed $1 billion?
$1 billion.
Yes.
It's about 3.7 trillion.
Yes, of
3.5,
course, yes, yeah. And what is common on social media is the first deal we made of Moda Investments, a country where people said is 1 year old, has no money, is dormant, with a £100 share capital. The information that came on social media were of our among our first deals. So that's what created what we could call, you know, the heightened debate on social media. And I remembered the big investments we have participated in as a country. The groundbreaking ceremony for the standard gauge railway was in Munyonyo, a highly hyped event, but we have never taken off, and other countries are already traveling in their standard gauge railways. And the debate, we have now lowered our expectations by saying we fix what the colonial administrators gave us. You can also look at what has become of the Lubowa specialized hospital with the money we borrowed. I don't know whether Ugandans will soon get those specialized services and whether it was worth it or not, and many other failed projects. So if you equate to the way we behave, we are good at creating excitement. But as to whether that excitement materializes into something tangible is another matter. And you can, especially, you know, Morrison mentioned that other countries were wondering, and then I was like, okay. Because at times when you are racing alone, either you are making a mistake or there is something missing. Because you can imagine there are 192 countries in Dubai, all looking at tapping opportunities for their countries. Dubai is running on the theme of connecting minds and creating opportunities under 3 sub-themes of sustainability, mobility,
and opportunity.
Yes, and opportunity. So when you go under sustainability, there are 5 areas. One is industries, then there is finance capital, there is governance, there is employment and education. So everybody, all the 192 countries that are in Dubai are there to do what we are also there to benefit from. So when you see yourself, you're the only one signing. So are the others, do you think they don't want investors? Are you doing a proper due diligence? Or are you creating excitement, you know, like a man who proposes marriage to a very girl they meet, and 10 years down the road, they are still bachelors. So I really hope that the story will be different.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Minister. At this point, you need to come in. So many on your table. The late preparation by government, but also relevant to you is the publicity that, of course, you came just a few months ago into this docket, but you now have, they say, heavy is the head that carries a crown. You now have the burden to explain why we didn't prepare in time, why we didn't involve the young people with a lot of verve, with a lot of energy, with a lot of passion, a lot of ICT, you know, innovation things, mind. Why did we find ourselves in this type of situation that leads our countrymen and women to become pessimistic, like Honorable Semuju is saying, Council Birete are saying?
Well, thank you very much. I think there was preparation because we have an ambassador based in Abu Dhabi with a team that were deeply involved in the preparations. Probably we were not announcing whatever we're doing every day. Maybe the publicity was a little bit low. But when you see, first of all, Uganda Day being scheduled to be on the second day after France, and this is like a sort of competition. So you should know there were some minds which were involved in this, because it matters when your day is marked. And immediately after the opening of the expo, Uganda was the second. Even on the night when we were going to mark Uganda Day, the tallest building in Dubai, which is the tallest building in the whole world, Burj Khalifa, was running the Uganda flag the whole night. Yes, it might look small, but where you're talking of 192 countries participating, it is not automatic that, like you check, it is not automatic that for every day which marks the day, that building will run the colors. No, it will not, I'm telling you. So it is not true to say we didn't prepare. Those happenings didn't just occur on their own. There was preparation. Maybe the publicity, the communication was not as adequate to inform the country and the public, but there was thoughtfulness, there was preparation into this. And I can really tell you that where the pavilion of Uganda was, that land has been bought by the government of Uganda. We're going to put an office for economic affairs, because what Dubai does, that they construct that area for the pavilion, for the expo, and thereafter it remains. So we have booked and paid for our space where the pavilion is. I think one problem is that maybe many people do not or did not understand what the expo is all about. They think the expo is about the pavilion alone, because the negative commentaries are just about the pavilion. But there were very many aspects, like the engagements we had with the many potential investors, the business fora which we had, where we had discussions, the discussion the president had with other leaders. All of those are not seen. People just concentrate on the pavilion where we're displaying what Uganda has. So, yes, maybe we could have done better. We could have prepared for 6 or 7 years like others. But I think at the time when we started, Uganda was still able to do a fairly, to put a good show compared to what was obtaining in the expo. And also aware that this is an expo which runs for 6 months. So we just went at the opening in the first week, but the show will run from October up to the end of March. And therefore, even where there are points of weaknesses, they will be corrected along the way. So, like the discussions and the signing of the deals, Sarah is creating an impression as if it's because she said Uganda is signing and others are not. No, for us, we are reporting on what Uganda was achieving. We are not here to report on what Burundi was doing and other countries. But
No, but she said that why are you the only one who signed?
No, the signing. Exactly.
And I think the Honorable Minister is responding.
Yes, yes, you are the one who said.
The one who said
Why are you the only one signing?
the only one
And we are saying
others were.
we don't have to.
Yes.
For us, we are focused and concerned about Uganda.
She's wondering whether out of the 192 countries,
It's only Uganda.
and you are the ones signing for Uganda, Uganda is the only one signing, whether you are signing what they used to call Chiwani.
No. It is not Chiwani.
Things.
Because
There is something.
Because also, Sarah cites some few projects which have delayed, creating an impression as if all projects in Uganda have failed. I am sure she knows there are very many industries and factories which have been constructed here. Just go to Namave and many other areas. So for you to single out maybe one or two projects which could have delayed for one reason or the other, to create a wrong and false impression as if Morrison is not doing a lot of work at Investment Authority is also not correct. So for us, we believe that the people we signed with are very serious because we put a very good show. Because what were we looking at? We are looking at issues, business issues, trade issues, investment issues, tourism, and the team which went to Dubai put a very good show. That's what resulted into the signing. And also the visit by the president going there physically also caused excitement in Dubai. And we started on a very good note. Let me talk about the pavilion. Of course, there are sections of Ugandans who have turned criticism like a profession. It's now their profession. A lot of discussion went on the pavilion, but personally I visited the pavilion. And I think the discussion was centering around two postings. One, the MPs were funded by government. There you go. Okay, they film, they say they enter the pavilion, they don't find Ugandans manning the pavilion. I was actually interested to know where I had the people who were there, because I visited the pavilion that day 3 times, and there were people manning the pavilion. What did I find? You see, in the morning, we were at a nearby place in a function where the president came and the ruler of Dubai was opening the Uganda Day. And I think what happened is some of the workers who were inside now moved also to look at the president and hear the president. This is when the MPs come in and they film and say there is nobody here. And the question has been, yes, even if you found something wrong, what did they want to achieve by filming and posting to the whole world? You see, this is also lack of patriotism, not loving your own country. Okay, you may have misgivings with the government, but also there is the aspect of loving your country. This is an expo that brings together all the countries of the world. So what do you want to achieve as an MP? You have been sponsored by Parliament, therefore government of Uganda, to go and add value, but the only value you add is to film and then say, oh, this thing is not working. Why wouldn't?
Which is why.
Why would an MP?
Which is why.
No.
They have run away.
No.
So you can.
No.
No, but
why would an MP run to a minister and say, you people, the way we have arranged this, you correct ABCD? Because you see, we may disagree with the same here in the parliament, in our parties and politics in the parliament. But the moment we go out of the country, we should be Ugandans. Yes.
Which brings me to an important question and discussion that people had following that sharing by the MPs of Uganda.
Yes.
That did we actually strategically, and Maurice, after the minister, you need also to touch on that.
Yes.
Did we strategically prepare every participant, including ministers, the executives like Morrison, MPs who went there, so that Uganda has value for money? That did those MPs also know that you are talking of knowledge about the expo? Did they know that my role of going to Dubai at the expo is not just for touring and sleeping in a hotel and shopping, but to add value to building Uganda's brand? Did you prepare them for that?
Maybe the preparation was not adequate, I can concede. It was not adequate. But by the time you are a member of parliament, there are also some basics which you to be able to meet. When we, because
Semujo is laughing.
yes, you see, one time we were in New York, we were in New York for a conference as members of parliament. Then one of them was saying, when he was contributing, was saying, you see, the RDC in my district is harassing us as opposition. Now we're saying, how do you complain about an RDC in New York? Who knows what an RDC is? So also, I think at our level, by the time you fly out of the country, usually we've been advising ourselves that in the parliament we can quarrel. I am NRM, Honorable Semuju is the FDC, we can have our partisan politics. But the moment we board the plane to go outside as a delegation, we are representing Uganda, not even our political parties or our ideological thinkings, but we are there to make Uganda shine as a country. So that's where, in my view, they failed. Even if they found something irregular, something wrong at the pavilion, they should have called the Minister of Trade or any one of us to say, why don't you correct this? It doesn't portray Uganda very well. So there is that lack of patriotism among us. But for me, who went to the pavilion, it was not as bad as you wanted to create it. Because most of the things Uganda was exhibiting were being exhibited digitally. Because in the commentary, that footage by the MPs, they were saying, in the corner, there is a video talking about the internet. So they were not understanding what was being exhibited. Because like in the Ministry of ICT, we ran a commentary on why you need to invest in Uganda, the opportunities in the ICT sector, and the video was showing, so you could come and listen, and we had written material you could pick. So even if you don't put there a physical person to be there, people were watching. Uganda Tourism Board had beautiful digital platforms where you would even come, you put your hand, and then it shows you which kind of bird you are related to. If Morrison puts his hand, another bird comes. And the Bazungu and the international community was very excited. That's why one of the journalists, if you followed, rated all the pavilions and rated ours, Uganda, as number 3. So, despite those commentaries by the MPs, who in my view also probably lacked knowledge, I even made a comment that maybe some of the critics saw to Dukare cassava and the yams and what. This was the World Expo. A World Expo where exhibition was largely digital. Yes, it was largely digital. Because you go to the pavilion of Rwanda, the others, they were comparing favorably with what we were showing as a country. So it's not true that Uganda put a very bad show, that Uganda were performing poorly compared to the other countries.
Okay.
That's not true, yes.
Thanks a lot. At this point, let's now engage freely, and feel free to interrupt, but respectfully, a colleague. I just want to read the platforms you want to join us through. First is it is a 0709 number 602592. If you want to send a message, make a comment or ask a question, send to 0709 602592. If you want to join us through Twitter, you can use hashtag UBC behind the headlines, hashtag UBC behind the headlines. But you can also watch this broadcast or program through YouTube, and that's through UBC Television Uganda. And we are streaming live through the YouTube channel and those other channels as well. So if you want to join the discussion, ask a question or make a comment, keep it short so that we can read as many as you send and engage with the panel here. Morrison, in just 1 minute, I wanted you to add on to some of the points that in terms of the preparation of, and this is not the only thing that, the reason I'm asking this question is because this is not the only thing that we are caught flat-footed in terms of preparation about. And so Ugandans keep asking, you know, there is a reason why many of them become skeptical, because if one thing happens, another one happens again, they become cynical, then they make negative comments, especially the young people, because they are seeing their interest not being incorporated into the national planning, they are not participating, and you are talking about inclusive growth. And so they begin to wonder whether what you say is what you actually do, you see. So going forward, how do we right some of these mistakes?
I think, Charles, there are some misconceptions that mix, for example, the process and the results. I think the concentration in the conversation has been on this process. And I think the Minister Chris Ebre dealt with some of the fault lines in the preparation. But I think what Ugandans should focus on is, even without preparation, have we delivered substantial results, you know, comparatively? And I can frankly say that we are ahead of the curve, really, in that respect. Okay. Then the other misconception is to try and say that if you spend $50 million or $150 million in preparation, that's more important and that will deliver you the results. It's not necessarily true. You know, some people, efficient governments actually use fewer resources to deliver high-level results, because maybe they deployed more investments in strategy and leverage, and the leverage points. But also one thing that I saw is that there is so much interest within the UAE and broader Middle East on Uganda, perhaps because of the strategic role Uganda plays in the region, but also because of the other aspects that Chris talked about. And that's why President Museveni's opening and closing remark was that Uganda, it's the right place and the right time. You talk about young people. Why are we signing these deals? Why are we trying to court investors? To use my sister Sarah Verete's point. You see, our business as Uganda Investment Authority, it is to promote, facilitate, and provide aftercare services to investors. In the aspect or facet of promotion, it is really courtship. It is really like, you know, when you are engaging and courting somebody to marry. It doesn't mean sometimes the marriage plan collapses along the way. But I think if you look at Namanga, you look at what is happening in Soweto and what is happening in other places, I think Uganda, in terms of ability to marry and keep the marriage alive, when we come to investors, I think we are again at a higher curve in that respect. But I also want to tackle this issue, which Sarah says was on the social media streets of Moda, who is one of the partners in this special purpose vehicle, which is a conglomerate called Requesa Investments, where Moda is part of it. You see, again, I was very surprised that Ugandans I actually respect very much were talking due diligence, not knowing that really companies are special purpose vehicles. If me and Honorable Semuju and Sarah, as individuals, we have our proper net worth, and we want to go and, for example, invest in Kanungu, it's just us coming together and say, we have these resources, we have this experience, we want to go and open a tea factory in Kanungu. We bring our net worth together, we bring our experience. And it is very clear, this model, even they spoke on TV and did all that. They already run factories. Their conglomerate is already running factories in the UK, and President Museveni visited some of those factories some years back. And by the way, one other thing I need to, and I think Uganda is a very interesting place in terms of the opportunity that we have. These Indians who were chased by the fascism of Idi Amin, they have done very well. They are in Canada, they are in the UK. Even when we were in Dubai, you know, seated with some of these investors, put the signing, the two buildings, one hosting, I think, Stanbic Bank, and they are like twin towers, although shorter, near Burj Khalifa. They are owned by a Ugandan Asian who is also in the UK. And they still feel really very much Ugandan. So we have an opportunity, and as Uganda Investment Authority, we're trying to also quote that segment to say, come back home and invest, because now the situation is better. Honorable Semuju talked about the Middle East strategy, and I agree with him. We have a draft UAE strategy as Uganda Investment Authority and as government of Uganda, and I do agree that perhaps we should expand it to the broader Middle East strategy. And when we are doing that, we definitely encourage our technical team to ensure that people who have got experience in those aspects are consulted, such that we have something robust to be able to deliver on. The final piece that I want to mention is that we actually, at the government of Uganda, through Uganda Investment Authority, showcased and continues to showcase for the next 6 months around 97 turnkey projects, where feasibility studies have already been done, and we show investors that you put your money here, okay? The return on investment in this project is very clear. And I can tell you there are some investors that are studying it very carefully that have promised to come back to us while they consult and they fly in here. But also, it is not true that you go to Dubai because it's not an expo, so you cannot sign anything because some previous. No way. I want to give an example of Modern Group. They are based in Dubai, but they have already invested in Ginger. The project of $70 million.
The Mother Investment.
Yes, you know them, Modern Group. They are based in Ginger. They have already done an investment of $70 million. And we have been negotiating and engaging them to invest more. And they committed before us in that letter of interest and MOU an additional $100 million investment. So things are happening. We went along the country doing land mobilization. In northern Uganda alone, got 4,000 acres. The country is ready for investment. In Chisoro, you know the land holding of Chisoro per capita. But Chisoro local government gave Uganda government 620 acres of land for an industrial park. So the conscience of the country, make no mistake, of the young people and the elders and everybody is tuned to industrialization, and it is the role of the leaders and all of us as Ugandans to continue to mobilize that consciousness so that we realize industrialization.
Someone called Francis is saying, Charles, ask Rwakakamba, the expo is 6 months long. Who picks companies to appear at the expo on behalf of Uganda?
Well, first of all, investors are appearing on behalf of themselves and Uganda, and the investment what they want to do in Uganda, because they will definitely do work with Uganda. But Uganda Investment Authority, using different tools, continues to reach out to investors, negotiate with them. Once the points of agreement are reached, then those deals are signed. They can be signed in Kampala here, or they can be signed in Dubai. But the opportunity provided by the export focus on Uganda has helped us to really engage.
Okay, Honorable Semuju, going forward, your take on how we should be doing better in these things. But also, most importantly, there are questions raised by the Honorable Minister that when we go out of the country, we are Team Uganda. You know, we are supposed to be Uganda. Forget about the government, forget about the parties and all that, our petty difference. I mean, not petty, but our political differences here, we should put them aside. Is that what can be done? Do you think that is something that is possible?
I remember one time there was a garage after Makiriri. So those young people did a lot of gossiping. They said if you see a car and there is a man and a woman are not talking, those are married. When you see them laughing and happy, they are not married. If you have had a quarrel at home, you can pretend, but it will explode. That for you have been quarreling a whole day at home, and on your way to attend a wedding, you go laughing. It's simply not possible. So, Chris, these things you need to sort them out here, not in Dubai. There are people who are extremely cautious, who may behave the way you like, but I think majority will not. If you've been beaten by a government minister or a government in which Chris is serving, you will go crying all the way to Dubai. Maybe you should stop them from traveling. So the bad manners here need to stop. Then you will have everybody promoting Uganda when you are away.
Yes, I will go crying up
Which
to
has
Dubai.
you has funded you and given you a ticket.
Yeah, you can travel with your wife after quarreling a whole week. You travel in the same car, so the faces will show that actually these ones are just pretending. So let's sort out these things, and it's possible, by the way, to do so. And then we'll go out as a team. But when we go in that frame, most likely you'll have that. I'm not sure that the people who fill with the pavilion are necessarily the opposition. I'm not sure. First of all, majority of the MPs, and you know, we've said these things many times. Who do we promote to become leaders? You have had complaints within parliament. People don't even know how to eat on a table. These things you have said them here. And then you list them to go, and you think they will be beneficial to a country. So the selection, but also the training. The other day, we had the minister coming to parliament to table a bill. He doesn't even know, because simple things. If you've been assigned to go and table a bill in parliament, ask yourself, if you are new, what is involved in tabling a bill. And it looks like someone picked, I don't know. So
that's why we're having an induction today.
Yeah, it's important, but it's for ministers. So it's important to prepare people. So that if they are going to represent a country, they know the responsibility on their shoulders. Maybe next time we will. The point I don't want to lose, Morrison, the biggest mistake that you make, and now I say you make, for you are new in that assignment, is to create an impression that there are going to be instant results. Because advertising a country, you can actually walk to Dubai, exhibit, spend money, and you come back with no deal signed. It is not a must that when you go to exhibit at a forum like that, you must come with deals and you must announce them. So you raise suspicion. So you work under pressure. You create unnecessary pressure. Advertising is not going to give you results immediately. The result actually is not in Dubai. But
if they give this some results, do you apologize or what?
No, I'm not saying that.
Like in the case of Uganda, where we
I am only cautioning you not to create that unnecessary pressure onto yourself, because you might end up lying. Because advertising a country is not for today, it's not for instant results. And you need to get the country to understand that when you go to participate in...
we should have signed behind the curtain.
No, I'm saying when we go to participate, in an expo of that magnitude, it is not that we've gone there to sign deals and announce them and bring them immediately. We've gone to sell our country. Maybe the benefits will come after a year or will come after 2 years. So the trouble is that when you begin signing deals on arrival, then you're going to have a debate. Even serious companies are going to be dismissed. Which sort of deal can be signed as quickly as that? So that's the point. That's the point that...
Let me provide a clarification.
Yeah.
It is not that we met investors for the first time, in Dubai and signed. No, these are, I've told you, like Modern Group, they have invested here, they have done a lot of feasibility. What we are working with them on is the additional $100 million investment. If you look at this Turkish company that we signed with, they have been here 5 times. They have deployed their own teams. Chief Finance Officer was here to check the kind of investments they want to do, and these negotiations were on. That's why I said that even before we could sign those deals, they had to be again counter-checked by the Office of the Attorney General.
So they had nothing to do with Dubai?
No. It was a process that acclimatized in Dubai, but the discussions are going on. Because first of all,
maybe poor represented as if it was...
No, not at all.
It was...
No, not at all. So I am telling you that the government is here, and the government continues to engage. And UIA continues to engage investors. And I said, some we are going to sign in Dubai, some we can sign here. And I can also tell you that in a few weeks, it's not that we are putting ourselves on pressure. Some of the investors are showing up. And they are ready to start.
Moritz, I don't disagree with you. I am only saying, if you have an ongoing process, and Dubai becomes part of that ongoing process, it is wrong for you to present it as if it was consummated and everything happened in Dubai. So that's what I am contesting, that no investor worth the name will meet you in Dubai during the expo in 2 days, and you and Bariomunsi are announcing deals worth.
But Honorable
it will be
using
suspicious.
the analogy that you had already used with Ndugu Morrison,
Yes.
if you started dating, you know, in school and you got married in New York, don't you say we got married in New York?
Yes, but you can't say we met in New York and married.
I think you are all, conflating this.
But let me go to another point.
Even at some work
First of all,
going,
yes,
and
I am
in
yes,
Dubai,
yes.
and even the,
And got consummated.
and the fresh discussion is even begun, and they continue. Yes.
I think
So
Sarah has made the point.
Yes.
We met in New York in the morning, and in the afternoon, it will be a problem. So the second point, I am happy that you said you now have a strategy on Dubai, on the Middle East. That's what we should have as a country. I was in Dubai, I think 2 years ago, and participated in a mango festival. Mango looked something very small. I later looked for figures. Pakistan sells mango to Dubai worth $110 million every year. That's why they had the Mango Expo. You see, for someone to tell me, let's go and attend the Mango Expo, it looked something small, but sometimes you want to have some free time. So I said, let me go and participate. The strategy is what will bring you those investors, or is what will inform what you go to sell. I was telling someone, one of the disastrous campaigns we've ever run as a country, the president wanted to promote coffee. They even put some money available, Coffee Development Authority. Because General Sale was involved, they went to Denmark, they went to Egypt, but in Denmark, they went and hired a truck and started vending coffee from one shopping mall to another. Of course, nobody was buying. You see strangers in a truck vending coffee.
Coffee for drinking or the...
For drinking. So they had processed. I don't know where they processed from. So they started moving around. And of course, we spent the money. I chaired the committee on COSAS one time. I was looking at the report of the Auditor General. And everybody was wondering, if you've gone to promote coffee, Ugandan coffee in Europe, you don't do it yourself. You carry coffee on your head and then begin walking with it on the streets. So you must find people. That's how, during that campaign, we even went to China, who don't consume coffee. We opened a shop there. For so many years, the shop existed. And when I asked them, of all destinations, why did you go to one that doesn't consume coffee? They said, we are going to teach them to begin consuming because they are too many. So sometimes, and I am very happy and honestly happy that under you, we now have strategies country by country. I asked, let me not say I might cause problems to people, but one of the embassies about, we ask these things, by the way, not because we are looking for information to criticize. They told me, even the tourists themselves, you need to profile them. When you go to exhibit, you must know which tourists that you want to attract. They told me, for example, at one of the Ghanaian embassies, that Russians do a lot of tourism, but they are lazy. They want a beach, they don't want to be disturbed, that you put them on a truck to go to Kurisi's Wind to see the gorillas. You will not get Russians there. So they want to come where there are beaches, sit there, enjoy, and go away. And therefore, the amount of money we are spending at that particular embassy to entice Russians to come here
is misplaced.
So we need to profile these things before we go, because you might exhibit coffee to Chinese who are consuming pork from Denmark, and all that you need to go and, because if they consume pork, and that's what that's what you should go to exhibit to them, that you are better than Denmark. That's what they are looking for. And that goes into the preparation. Okay. So, Maurice, I am happy. You've said those strategies exist. I really hope that the technical teams that you are supervising are going to follow up on these things and then solicit the help of those who who have studied even the population itself.
Okay.
Because that's how we are going to benefit as a country.
Sarah, way forward, and I will end with the Honorable Minister on that way forward. How can we do better? How can we sell Uganda better and make Uganda benefit from whatever input, especially investment?
You know, as the clip Honorable Bariamun's talked about of the MPs was doing rounds, there was also another clip by one of the youngest, most traveled people in the world, and he was praising Uganda. So he made a 3-minute clip on why everyone should visit Uganda. Very beautiful. When you visit Uganda, you will find, you know, tree climbing lions, you will find this. Very simple, very beautiful. It was a very good attempt at marketing Uganda. So what we need, of course, Uganda is a beautiful country. Uganda can make much more money out of tourism if we deliberately and properly market the tourist assets that we have. Countries that have half of the tourist assets that we have are making much more revenues out of tourism than we are doing. And I'm glad Bwana Morrison is real at the Investment Authority, because he is thorough in what he does. So the best way forward is to get prepared. Prepare so well. Make sure that you're intentional in what you're doing. Move away from the knee-jerk, you know, kind of work that is almost characteristic of our procedures in public administration. You can do a few things, but do them perfectly well and benefit instead of being everywhere. And then at the end of the day, you have nothing to show as value for money. So we should select where our niche is as a country. Even in industrialization, we should look at what are those 5 top industrial areas that we should profile higher than others and market more. So we should do a proper assessment of our comparative advantage as a country. Look at what we can market where we have advantage over others, prepare thoroughly in those areas, and continuously market the country for the benefit of everybody.
Thanks. Honorable Minister, on winding up on this topic, the major theme actually of the Expo is creating minds, connecting minds, creating the future.
Yes.
And our sub-theme is mainly dwelling on opportunities, especially, and we are looking at ICT as well, and for the young people. How going forward now, this next 5 months, how do you think we are going to leverage our potential as a country? Are we ready to do business with the world, to allow the world come to us and invest in those areas?
Yes, this World Expo, called Dubai 2020, it was supposed to take place last year, but because of COVID,
yeah, true,
it was pushed this year, but they maintained 2020.
True.
It's a very great opportunity for us as a country. And in the next 5 or 6 months when the Expo is running, we are going to intensify our engagement and also correct any errors that the Ugandans are criticizing us about, and see that we benefit from this Expo. You earlier on asked why were there many ministers and government officials. I want to tell you that much as yes, you heard those deals being signed, like Maurice has explained, there had been some work done before the signing. It isn't that they were just falling like a manna from heaven that we reached there and they fell, but there had been some work before. But also the various ministers and government officials who were there engaged a number of companies, a number of potential investors, and much more is in the offing. Actually, more is what you have not yet seen, and we do hope that in the next 5 or 6 months when the Expo is running, many more deals shall be signed, and they should be able to mature into fruition. And I think there is a very great potential when you look at the Middle East. When you look at the area of agriculture, for instance, there are many products we can export, whether yellow bananas, pineapples, these fruits. Our produce here beats the products from many other parts of the world. But the only challenge that we have to prepare our farmers here, that if, for instance, you get the market to supply either goats or yellow bananas or avocados, you must work on quality, you must work on quantity so that you can sustainably supply that market. But the potential is there. You also know that alongside our going, we've opened the route. Uganda Airlines now is flying to Dubai. That also has caused the excitement. And therefore, our participation and involvement in this expo is expected to bring a lot of dividends along the way. And therefore, we hope to benefit. Let me comment on the youth. Yes, maybe the youth may look at it that, why are you not carrying the youth to Dubai? That's not probably how the youth participate. Government is doing all this because one of the challenges we have as a country is youth and employment. You know, when you look at the demographic structure of our country, the majority of the people in Uganda are children and young people. And many young people have been educated, they have degrees, they have diplomas, but there's the challenge of unemployment. So government is working night and day to see that we attract these investments, which will create jobs. The other day I visited a factory in Namamve, which is assembling phones, Isimi, and I was impressed with many younger people who have graduated with computer science and many other professional courses, doing the assembling of phones themselves here in Namamve. So really to the young people out there, that the intention of all this is see how to attract investments, to have factories here, to have industries here, which will create jobs for our young people. Like in the area of ICT, one of the areas we're focusing on is this new concept of business process outsourcing. And we spoke passionately about it through our video recording, that we have many universities, close to 60 universities here in Uganda. And every year we are graduating many graduates, engineering, medicine, insurance, accountants, all these. And these days, you can get employment outside without necessarily you physically flying there. For instance, a firm in the UK may want to audit its books of accounts, but they can employ a young person who has studied accounting here in Kampala, and that's why we're working on the issues of internet. And then you can digitally do the transaction, you audit their books, send the report, and get paid. And that's one of the elements we're promoting during the expo. So therefore, the young people out there, the intentions and the objectives of governments is basically to address those concerns of young people. So going forward, we should be able to reap lots of benefits from this participation. But also we are working on branding, like Sarah is saying. We need to brand, we need to market this country, we need to attract as many people. We have a great potential for tourism. And I have traveled to many countries. I think there are few countries, if any, that beat Uganda in terms of beauty and a country worth visiting. And therefore, as a government team, we are going to intensify this mobilization, this campaign, the 5 months and beyond, to see that we address some of these challenges. Like
thank you so much. As we go for a break, yes, Semuja.
I want to tell Chris, one time I traveled with Moses Byarahanga, senior presidential advisor. Yeah. And there was an old woman, a air hostess, who said I will go to Kilimanjaro during Christmas. She said, but you come to Uganda. And then he spoke like you are speaking. We have this, we have this. Oh, Uganda. Sometimes you fly to Entebbe, if we don't find hotels in Entebbe, we sleep in Kampala. But on your way, animals are crossing, bicycles, chaos. I can't go to Uganda.
Yeah, those are the things we have fixed.
So it's not just the animals in
yeah, those are the things we have fixed as a country. Yes.
Human beings are interesting. There are some Bazungus who enjoy the boda fun with the chaos so much instead,
Absolutely,
and
yes.
you wonder what they're really enjoying. But Esau Geria says, what we only need to market Uganda is selecting representatives on the basis of technical know-how, not technical know-who. That's someone called Geria. Then Rugendo says, tell Sarah that the country which has half of Uganda's tourism assets and $498 million from them in 2019, while Uganda earned $1.6 billion in the same year. That's what Rugendo saying.
Which country is that?
He says the insinuated country. and then Julius Muchunguzi, Communications Advisor, Office of the Prime Minister, says, thanks, Charles, and the panelists. It appears to me that the critics that made negative comments about Uganda's pavilion thought that the expo is like the agricultural show in Jinja, where you carry carrots, bananas, and cabbages. A global expo focuses on areas of competitive and comparative advantage. It is even possible that the critics have never been to any expo of such a magnitude. My only concern is that we needed to have more private sector actors, as well as more pitching on Uganda as a destination for investment and tourism than what we saw. Than what we are seeing, sorry. Thanks the persons who have sent the messages. And then this final one, let me read. Leandro Komakech says, Charles, too much emphasis on the word deals is not diplomatic for international engagements. Words like contracts, trade agreements, pacts are better. That is Honorable Leandro Komakech saying, the former MP for
Leandro is my friend, but he should know the language of money and investors. If he goes to New York, if he goes to Hong Kong and London, it's actually not contracts. Contracts are in courtrooms. It's actually deals, and he should know that. But to my brother Mchunguzi's point, you know, private sector people, these days I've been interacting again with them a lot. They don't like talking so much. They are really working. And I can tell you in Dubai, there were so many Ugandan private sector people trying to engage, and some of them were midwifing those engagements, B2Bs, in order to get the deals. I will give an example that actually surprised me. And that is an investor based in Barara called Kaziro of Kaziro Products. He was camped in Dubai for, I think, 8 days. And he got a partner. They are going to try and process Morondo, you know, package it into juice to target the Middle East. Because I'm told that the natural products from Morondo and other things, you know, have a lot of attractiveness in that market. And it was inspired by Red Bull. Red Bull, you know, Austria that produces Red Bull. Essentially, Austria was built on the Arab money from Red Bull. And Kazira, you know, is working with somebody from Dubai who will be coming here very soon. So, and I also talked about Imagination for Machutko, the local company here that have got this big investor who is going to invest $50 million. So it's not true that Uganda's private sector is not participating. And it is for 6 months. We are going to continue facilitating, and we make sure that our private sector is in Dubai and all these places really getting joint venture investments. Finally, Brand Uganda, UTB, like Honorable Yumungu said, has come up with a very, very interesting consultative project of Brand Uganda that has been approved at the highest level. I would actually suggest that you even invite UTB to discuss how they want to position Uganda from the tourism perspective so that Ugandans watching can be able to input.
Yep. Sarah, you wanted some quick information?
No, as Emerson was talking about Kaziri, I don't know whether all Ugandans understand Murondo, and I'm wondering what disease does it show?
Well, I can tell you, across
there is a doctor here.
Across Uganda, Kaziri products are very, very well known. Yeah. Even if you go to Lila, people are drinking Kaziri. But Murondo is a certain plant. Kenyans are also trying to process it, but it is more natural here in Uganda, and I think it is a power drink, just like Red Bull, but here it is more natural. And Kaziri mentioned to me that he has done research that it will be very attractive in Middle East.
Okay, let's go for a break, and we will come back. And when we come back, we will be taking on the second topic, the new opposition front and its agenda. How new is it? Let's break now, shortly.
The third edition of the Bombay Business Summit is here, starting at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. every Friday from the 15th of October to the 12th of November. Join us via Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube as we discuss topics like surviving and thriving through the pandemic, investing in real estate, trade and investment opportunities in Uganda, alternative dispute resolution, business formalization, and inclusive resource mobilization for Uganda's economic independence. Don't miss out.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
My home, I smile when I think of you, Uganda. My home. My home, I dance when I look at you, Uganda. My home, oh my Uganda.
I know with you I'll always stay forever. I know, because I feel that we belong together. My home, under the sun so bright, under the moon at night, on my heart, mommy, oh my Uganda.
Hey, mama.
My Uganda. My Uganda. My Uganda. My Uganda. Nikukunda. My Uganda. Amari alemira. My Uganda.
Nyoe nikugonza.
My Uganda.
Amina ngojo. Amina ngojo.
At MTN, we look forward to starting another exciting journey together to grow our home, Uganda.
Get vaccinated today so we can get closer to the normal way of life. Echa COVID-19 chija kugwa.
You know, you could just buy a new smartphone from anywhere in Uganda. Dial *175 *94 hash to activate their 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles for 3 months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are hooked already, aren't you? Enjoy 100% double data bonus from Airtel. Buy a smartphone from anywhere in Uganda and insert an Airtel SIM card. Dial *175 *94 hash to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles. Valid for 3 months. Dial *175 hash and select your preferred bundle to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles. Valid for 3 months. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Getting GoTV was the best decision James has ever made. Finding a good place to watch football was never easy, but it was costly until James discovered something big. Now he can finally enjoy the benefits of homegrown advantage with a decoder and 1 month of GoTV value. For just 25,000 shillings, enjoy the world's biggest leagues and cap competitions. GoTV Uganda, love it.
Uganda, today is a great day to work towards your dreams. Dial *185 *7 hash and select savings to save as low as 500 Ugandan shillings on regular savings or 250,000 Ugandan shillings for fixed deposits. Airtel Money Super Saver is powered by KCB Bank Uganda. Airtel Money, instant, secure, borderless. T's and C's apply.
Welcome back from the break. This is Behind the Headlines, and we are into the last segment, and the second topic is what we are going to be discussing in this second segment. But from the first, I got a message from Ismail Ladu, who is watching, and he says, Charles, I'm enjoying this show. It's like the Ugandan pavilion at the Expo, with so many interesting stories to tell. That said, Charles, you have to visit the pavilion to have your own experience. I decided to not miss this because Ismail, I know, works with the Monitor, and he visited the Expo. He was at the pavilion, and he came back last week. So probably we shall get more stories of journalists who actually visited in order to get the real glimpse into what happened there and how things went. Now we are into the politics now. The new opposition formation, the pressure group, another pressure group, this time called the People's Front for Transition, and the new chairman is again retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besigye, and it has kicked off a lot of discussion across parties within the opposition outfits, and accusations here and there. But we are going to be discussing that in the next 40 or so minutes that are left for this. Let me start with asking Semuju, who is a member of the Opposition Forum for Democratic Change, and he represents it in Parliament, but most importantly, he speaks for the party as its spokesperson. Honorable Semuju, what is new with this front? What does it want to do?
Uganda's problems are not new. People made the 1995 constitution, actually from the time that Mr. Museveni took over power. I have extensively spoken to those who went with him to the Wero to fight. The first meeting after taking over power that was discussing politics was discussing a transition. They sat in Irubiri, which used to be a barracks, and discussed, okay, we've captured the power. How many years do we do before we open up for political competition? President Museveni proposed 2 years. He said, for us, we are revolutionary. After 2 years, we hand over power to the population. There are others who proposed 5, 3, 10. So the first 4 years that President Museveni did was actually not his proposal. He said he wanted it too. Eventually, from 4 there was an extension of another 5 to do a constitution that became 9. After the 9, I was now an adult.
Who made the first 2 years proposal?
President Museveni said during that meeting that them, the Ruero group, after capturing power, that we can rule for 2 years and then hand over power back to the population. That was his proposal. There are others who said 3, 5, 10. Eventually, they presented as if it was a compromise that we do 4 and then return power to the population. So I have given that background to show you that we have an unfinished business of transiting from one arrangement to another, from 4 to another 5, 9. 96, the president said, I want a council. He was even given a council, retired from the army. He said, I'm going to now be a civilian leader, and that is it. After that, it became modernization and professionalization of the army, and now to many other things that you know. So the arrangement that had been put in the constitution for us to have a transition from the military ruler who captured power in 1986, that hasn't happened. Elections have come, they have gone. All of you know what has happened during these elections. And even people who made the constitution knew that there would be elections, but they knew the moment you were in power, you're going to take advantage, and they needed to put it in the constitution that you will stop here. So the People's Front for Transition is just renewing that discussion that this hasn't happened. We had elections last year, but we knew right from the promulgation of the Constitution 1994-95 that maybe these elections will not bring this transition. So the
how different is it from other pressure groups? Reform agenda.
It doesn't have to be different. You see, I have refused to be put under pressure.
People's government.
To end up lying. It does not have to be new.
So it is just
even the actors don't have to be new.
A change
because
of
the
name.
Subject matter is an old subject matter.
So it is only a change
It
of
is getting
name.
together. It is getting together after an attempt during elections that were extremely violent, in which a candidate was determining the course, the course of the election. If he says they arrest you, they arrest you. They beat you, they beat you. So someone you're competing with, but determining how you must compete against him. So after elections, we will certainly need to get together, because we never had an election as the Constitution demands. Okay. The dates were just announced and then went into. So therefore, this particular front, those of us who have participated in discussing its formation, it has nothing to do with the elections.
Okay.
That we wait for elections of 2026, no. We need to have a transition even today. We've been talking about tourism investment. It is going to be very, very difficult to attract credible investors in a country whose future is uncertain, a country that has not tested itself after the change. Because you see, people have lost the money, and I kept telling people, someone who will come to Uganda to invest $100 million US, it will take him not less than 20 years
to
recoup that money. Therefore, any investor that you want to attract, you want to be certain that this country, when one leader leaves, you're not going to have the same problems that most of the African countries have had. So stability of Uganda does not rely on the continuity of one person in power, because at one time we will have to end. But that end is what now we must be discussing and make sure it happens peacefully. So this front is to ask all of you, including the media. In other countries, the clergy, the religious peoples have made a contribution. They are the ones who stopped Bakiri Muruzi from becoming a president for life.
Even in Congo, it is the Catholic Church that,
yes,
that changed leadership.
They are the ones who stopped Chiruba in Zambia from becoming a president for life. So there must be effort, collective effort by all Ugandans who care about the country to bring Museveni's rule to an end, a peaceful end. I asked him one time when we were on radio to give this country a gift, We don't have to be violent to change leaders, but we can't guarantee that there will never be violence, because where there has been violence, sometimes by the way, it's not the main competitors that are causing violence. So this front, People's Front for Transition, is just to renew the demand that we must discuss Museveni's end. We must have a transition as was envisaged in the Constitution, which transition he has kept postponing by changing the Constitution. And we are inviting all Ugandans to peacefully begin demanding. And that's why we said the first activity of the front is going to be the red card. When you meet Chris Wariomunsi buying, you need to remind him that your time, please.
But you didn't bring a red card here.
Because you didn't ask me to
but you see, the opportunity, no one will give you the opportunity. Chris, for example, is at a higher level, is my boss. How can I ask you to give him a red card?
my red card is in the car, so when we are going, I'm going to show Chris.
You give him outside in the parking, and when I am gone. But Chris, more seriously, sorry, not Chris, Honorable Semuju.
Yes.
There are two following questions that I wanted to ask. Then I bring in Honorable Chris and the Council Birete. A fundamental question that has been asked, and I think I see some people in FDC not happy with it. But as far as the public is concerned, that's a fundamental question. The question of the opposition unity. The moment the front was announced, the first exchange of this and the other comes from the leading opposition party currently, National Unity Platform, and then the ping pong with FDC. How do you generate consensus just at a level of, intra-opposition?
It's very difficult. I have read the history of many of these. I don't know how many meetings that the people in South Sudan had, even in Kampala, in Entebbe. They are the common enemy in Khartoum, but they also had their problems that they up to now failed to solve. Maybe it is natural, it is human. When Mr. Museveni and group were in Irwell, you need to read Charlie Gonza's book. They were even killing themselves. At one time, they even wanted to remove Museveni, that he had stayed away for long. When he went to Sweden, I think for 6 months, the groups that remained there sat down and said, this guy is a coward. When he comes, we remove him. They even said the Mbabazis who were in Kenya, these ones are just enjoying sausage. So it is natural that you will have people grumbling, sometimes over something, sometimes over nothing. But also you need to understand that...
but how do you make it a strength and not a weakness, especially perceptually?
You keep talking to each other. You keep talking to each other. I don't think the new leaders that I have spoken to, I have shared a platform with, are quarreling as some of their ranks members were quarreling at the beginning. Maybe it takes time, but also there are those who legitimately feared that maybe Besigye is going to come back and he will dwarf us. So we don't want Besigye to come back. But we continue discussing, because before the formation, before the announcement, the formal announcement, we had a couple of meetings with everybody, including some religious leaders, and we continue talking. Because I told the colleague, see, these things you're doing is a sacrifice. There is nobody who enjoys being beaten by the Kurisis, but it's a sacrifice that we must make. Because even the Kurisis, sometimes they are also victims. NRM people. The other day when they wanted to remove the bail, I reminded them in Parliament. I was in Maxon Bay in Uzira in B2. They arrested me for walking from Chireka to Banda. The initial proposal was to charge me with treason. Eventually they charged me with something less. But in B2, where I had been, just the NRM former vice chairman of Uganda and vice president Gibeon of Kenya had been there.
Is that the same place where there was Mike Mukula, there was Jim Wezi?
Yes. And that's why when he took them to court, they said, please, we are all potential candidates for prison, even you. the only reason for you, Mr. President, you are lucky you are still a sitting president. But as soon as you leave, you become a candidate, you join. So we don't tamper with the bail. So we continue talking to each other. I don't think with this or any other effort that the disagreements will not be there. The disagreements are normal, even within the FDC.
Okay.
You might think that we are conflicting with NOB, but even within the FDC, even within other parties, that is human. You try to minimize the damage and then move. But I don't want to lose the main point. The main point is that this country must transit from Mr. Museveni's 36-year military rule to a civilian democratic rule, and then we grow the culture of changing leaders without having to shed blood.
Okay.
And that's why the whole idea of iPod was brought here from Ghana. They faced a similar situation, but they talked to each other and eventually agreed to restore term limits and also to subordinate themselves to those processes. That's what is lacking in Uganda.
Honorable Chris, as NRM, when you saw the new announcement of the front, the People's Front for Transition, what came to your mind? Did you get worried? Are you concerned that this pressure group is coming up again?
Not really. I don't even understand why you give it space to be discussed on television for these minutes, because, like you correctly said, there have been similar pressure groups, Reform Agenda, Tubalemese, People's Government, Tajakulaira. So this one transition is
Walk to Work, 4GC.
Walk to Work, 4GC. So this one is one among the many that we have seen. We have just come out of elections where Ugandans voted for the leaders that they want, from the level of the president down to the councillors. And some of us, Honorable Semuju and I, were lucky we returned to parliament, others lost, but Ugandans expressed their free will. And so for Dr. Besigye and his team to now also want to switch on the politicking mode, I think by and large the pulse which we detect in the country, people have even rejected his announcement. And I can assure you, as the day follows the night, Ugandans will not embrace that, because at times people become tired of politicking. There is time for politicking, there is time for concentrating on work so that we can have food on our table. I think in my view, the major motivation is, and you see why you're asking Honorable Semuju to bring his card and I'd show it. I think he's half-hearted in this. As an FD spokesperson, he may have to say yes, but I'm not very sure that if he opened his heart, he's fully into it. He's fully into it. My thinking is that the motivation for Dr. Kizza Besigye, who has struggled painfully in vain to make a case, is that, you see, there has been a transition in the opposition politics in Uganda. FDC, which was founded by Dr. Besigye, was the most highly pressed opposition political party, even enjoying the leader of opposition status in parliament. Now, in the last elections, NUP cannibalized the FDC in terms of displacing it and taking over. I think Dr. Kizza Besigye is just trying to occupy that space, because NUP and its leadership have also not showed their worth after getting those numbers of seats in parliament. I think the last many months since elections, they are also not there. You don't perpetuate them, you don't fill them. So Dr. Besigye has seen that gap and is trying to fill it and occupy that space. Why does he fight for this? What the Honorable Semuju may not tell the public, that opposition politics is very lucrative in Uganda and elsewhere. These people get funded. So if you present yourself as the most credible alternative who can remove Museveni or take over government, you get funding, you get support. I am comfortable where I am. I am not necessarily saying that the ruling party is not lucrative, but the opposition politics, especially from external funders, that I say for as a matter of fact. So it is also jostling for that space, but the most important, jostling for that support, especially from external funders, so that they just continue with their campaigns. But I think Ugandans are tired of this politicking. Even those who want opposition politics, I don't think they want to be running on the streets every day, even when you have just come from a very fresh election. We have put in place a constitutional order where to ascend to a position of leadership, you must compete, Ugandans have to vote. And that one, whether it's Dr. Chizavis Joyce, will not change that one. So for him to announce that we are going to remove the NRM government and President Museveni, not through elections, but through whatever he's organizing, I think it is just daydreaming. And Ugandans are now used to elections. So unless he's saying he's going to the bush, but there are no bushes today, they have been built with towns and so forth. So you are announcing that you want to topple government using an unlawful and unconstitutional means. And you want our children to follow you to be the aghast. When your children are studying outside in good schools, then you want my children who are here to go. I think Ugandans should square
my children are outside and Chris's are here.
No, you, you the organizers of this, your children are outside, and our children, the ordinary Ugandans, are here. Then you want our children to go, be tear gassed, be killed on the street when you are studying. Ugandans should square
who is going to beat people on the street?
Of course, if you announce that you want to use a constitutional means to topple government, the state is watching.
So that's what you are preparing?
Yeah, definitely.
That when people protest,
no, what
which
I'm
is
saying,
the right in the constitution, you will beat them.
No, what I'm saying, the moment you say we want to topple government, not through elections, the quick and correct interpretation is that you want to use a constitutional means. And of course, any reasonable government, any reasonable state will not fold its hands. We're just waiting. You cross the line, breach the laws, then the coercive machine of the state will put you to line.
Chris, what happened when we got engaged in constitutional means, the last elections?
Which ones?
What happened?
Which ones?
We participated in the last elections.
Yes, Ugandans voted.
Was there no beating or no tear gas?
Ugandans voted. Of course, even within elections, if you breach the law, then you are confronted by the state organs, definitely. You may be referring to this incident of Honorable Chaguranyi being arrested and so forth. There was a law which we passed in the parliament, the standing order, that we control COVID-19. You are a member of parliament. Now, it doesn't mean because you are a candidate.
I don't remember any provision that gave you authority to kidnap people.
Okay, that's your own one. No, what I'm saying,
beat them.
We had a debate in the parliament, in the government and the parliament, that we go ahead with elections despite COVID-19. We conduct these campaigns conscious of the fact that we must observe the SOPs. So it doesn't mean because you are a candidate, you are looking for votes, then you disregard what has been passed by parliament. So it doesn't mean that because there were elections, people were immune and you would just breach the law. So the point I am making is that if the transition campaign or this pressure group intends to use an unconstitutional, illegal means of trying to topple government, so don't expect that we shall lay a red carpet for you to pass on. You will definitely be confronted. Police will have to stop you to do that. Unless the activities are legal, lawful, and constitutional, well and good. But by the announcement which was made that you want the transition meaning removing a government which has just been elected a few months ago, the ink hasn't dried, and you think Ugandans, majority of whom have voted NRM, and then the state machinery, you think they will give you a red carpet, they will not, and they are waiting for you.
Okay. Sarah, there are two questions that during the launch, Besigye kept referring to, and then I also read a lengthier interview in Semuju's paper, The Observer, and he underscored the same. One is that there is a crisis in Uganda, democratic crisis, that's what he says. Then two, the question that, the question of a kind of, frustration sounding Besigye with especially the elites, people like you and I and the rest here, that, and then he refers to them as idiots and all that. Is there a crisis in your view? What kind of crisis, and how should it be handled? The argument by Chris is that there has been an election, and that should be the means of changing power, which is constitutionally provided, and that there is a transition going on. It shouldn't only be from the perspective of Besigye or the FDC. What do you make of those differing arguments in this?
I think the basis of that argument is the expectations Ugandans got at the enactment of the 1995 Constitution. Just a day before independence, the 1995 Constitution made 26 years. In that Constitution, and in the terms of reference given to the Odongotho Commission, there were two key issues. One was to ensure peaceful handover of power in Uganda, and the second one was to ensure that Uganda is governed on the basis of people's wishes, aspirations, and values. There are others, including the doctrine of separation of powers and the independence of the arms of government, which is also being tampered with under the bail debate and discretion of courts that the executive is contesting at the moment. So we have had this journey of the 1995 Constitution, but right at independence, there are clear fault lines in Ugandan's constitutional journey, right at independence time, starting with the Lancaster Conference, the Munster Report, and the processes that followed. So the practice, the tendency, even with the first post-independence government, was that once the Constitution gets in your way, then it's the Constitution to go. Leaders don't give way. That happened with the abolition of kingdoms. It started right at the anniversary of the first anniversary of our independence, when the courts had outruled the elections of the first ceremonial president, and then Obote decided to shortchange the court's decision by creating a ceremonial president through amending the Constitution. And that caused the current Article 92 of our Constitution, which says Parliament should never enact a law aimed at tampering or changing the decision of court. That is the basis. So we have this 40 constitutional journey as a country for 60 decades. A constitution gets in the way of leaders, it must be done with. Yet the Constitution is neither self-enacting or self-executing. A Constitution is enacted by people and must be respected and implemented by those people, because it cannot implement itself. So the taking of advantage of our Constitution is very frustrating. The nature of elections in this country, because now we have elections that are the only window through which Ugandans can attain peaceful transition of power. But what kind of elections are we experiencing as a country? The Constitution promises regular, free and fair elections. For 26 years, we only implement regular. The free and fairness is yet to be seen, and this has been confirmed by Supreme Court at every time these elections are put to test through that arm of government. So this is a verdict on us as a people. But what is the best way to address this? You know, coalitions globally are based on 3 issues. One is the principles governing those coalitions, the nature of leadership they get or put forward to the people, and the minimum agenda for these coalitions. Honorable Semuju seems to has put forward what is the minimum agenda. And as a constitutional watchdog, I really would not sit here and say I support unconstitutional means, even when the Constitution has been battered. Otherwise, organizations like Center for Constitutional Governance then should not exist. Because even when it is battered, it is the grand norm of the country. It has been battered at several fronts. The executive is planning another assault on our Constitution, attacking the independence of the judiciary and discretion of courts. Yes, will it stand the test of time? Will it be a constitution that will start and end with NRM regime, whereby by the time this country is done with NRM, then the constitution will also be relevant and thrown away with the regime? Is that the legacy they intend to make? Or are they even bothered about the legacy at all? So these are the questions in the minds of Ugandans, and they are very disturbing. And if we are well-intended leaders, then we should rise to the occasion and resolve them.
Semuju, Dr. Kiza Besigye, I heard him. He talked of action more than words now. Again, this question of how different is that going to be? When did the action, the former actions fail? Or did the former promises or expectations have no action that followed the promises?
I think the option is to fold our hands, go and sleep. Because every after election there has been a discussion, either led by USG or led by another person. I was a parliamentary journalist when Mr. Museveni changed the constitution to remove term limits.
203.
203, 204, 5. And then you had the formation of Parliamentary Advocacy Forum, in which many of Mr. Museveni's contemporaries were members, because there are many people who broke ranks with him at that stage. Yeah. The trouble is that you media people tend to personalize this thing as if it is about Besigye. I don't think I am a member of the front because of Besigye. I have personally disagreed with Dr. Besigye because he's human. But I don't want to fault him even when he has committed no fault. So this discussion leading to the formation of the front was never a Besigye's discussion. It's a discussion in which many of us participated. After elections that we have described to you, but election that you personally witnessed, what do we do?
But as
what Chris says that
leaders, we must keep you on toes. We must ask you the question. Conversely, it is the same thing we ask of Museveni, or the opposition always ask of Museveni, because we actually, many of us actually do not know whether behind the scenes there are more powerful people who push the president, just like you're in.
They are not there. Where? He's pushing himself. That there are people who are pushing him.
But if you are describing in the last election as why did you accept to serve as an MP? If I were you, if you think the process was fraudulent and unacceptable, I would even have refused to join Parliament.
No,
because you are joining is conceding that yes, the other one is the ruling party 81.
So Chris, where are you in this country? So you speak like you came here.
Sudanese.
No, I am wondering, because these elections happen here.
What we went through is fraudulent, and the North was calling elections.
I survived it. But how many people survived? There are
And I'm
those who
saying, if
there
you
are
are very
those who
serious,
there are those who did not survive.
if you are very serious as opposition, because
Yes.
the moment you accept to have a leader of opposition, you sit on the left side of the speaker, you are actually legitimizing the right side of the speaker.
I was
It
in
is a ruling
Luzira.
party.
I was in Luzira,
So-
Chris. I was in Luzira when your government arrested me. We even have leadership in the cells where we were. I had no option to contest because I was in Luzira. I was in prison. So this situation has been forced onto us. The trouble is that you also want to determine how we behave during this occupation. But I don't want to lose the point. The point that the question that you're asking, Charles, is this new? This is not new. It is the same old effort. We will keep trying until it happens. In Libya, Gaddafi was president for 43 years. I was in Sudan when Sudanese were welcoming Bashir from South Africa, where they attempted to arrest him and hand him over to... I couldn't believe that a year later, the same people who welcomed Bashir and were on the street will be chasing him. Sometimes, when you are under this pressure, and Chris has also been there. I went to see him here at Chira when he had been arrested. They even denied him slippers. And he knows where he went.
That has become your song.
You did not go to
Every
court.
time we appear for a talk show, you have to...
Because I have to remind you, this has nothing to do with me as a person. We all aspire for a country that is governed properly. And I'm not going to be a sole beneficiary when that happens. Even within your own ranks, there are people who are asking, Mr. Museveni, please, when will this thing happen? It is not a crime. We must have that discussion as a country and conclude it.
Inter-party, that you bring me to that question at that point. Is it completely lost at inter-party level dialogue?
It is not. It is not.
Then why don't we see calls for that as well? Instead, what we see is whether it is at iPod, sorry, or whether it is Besigye, Dr. Besigye, insisting that Mr. Museveni, I want us to meet first as old comrades. You cannot determine it, but I'm saying that kind, is it lost?
The attempt to have it happen hasn't succeeded. I don't want to say it is lost, but it hasn't succeeded. For Ghana to transit from J. Rawlings, there was a discussion by all the actors. In Kenya, there was a discussion.
Even in Kenya?
Here in Uganda, after the 2016 election, there was an effort to do that. And I was part of that effort. We had even reached a level of requesting people to come and guarantee the discussion. The late Tanzanian President Benjamin Mkapa was supposed to come here and moderate a discussion. Unfortunately for Mr. Museveni, the moment you talk, dialogue means handouts. That's why you have seen when iPod goes to meet him, he's asking, what is your problem? No, we can make money available. He thinks people are grumbling because of welfare issues. He makes sure that it is welfare issues that are going to be dealt with. And I hope maybe it will happen, because you see, I am one of those who don't believe that we should have a violent change of leadership. And I have said it many times, that for me, if you're going to pick arms, please don't invite me. There, I am helpless. I can protest that one, Chris cannot stop me. Going on the street to protest, that I can do because it is constitutional. But picking arms to go and shoot a government out of power, I am not going to participate. But I cannot guarantee that at one time people will not do it, like Museveni did in 80. So my concern, I am Ugandan, I have children here, they must have a future. That's why I'm participating and making a contribution. And I want to invite everybody, including Chris, internally where you are. And I know you also want a country that is governed properly, whose future is guaranteed. And that's the aspiration of everybody. But every attempt to speak to Mr. Museveni, when the religious leaders went, you know what happened? He asked the Catholic, you have a circle, he made a contribution. Mubaje, you have a circle, he made a contribution. Did you hear their dialogue anymore? So because for him, he thinks if I deal with the people's welfare, then I can die as a president.
It's part of the laws of 48 laws.
Unfortunately, he invited you for iPod, you chickened out.
Because
it is FDC which has been
because
jigging
it has been framed that the discussion with him was going to be a discussion
why don't you go there and make your point? Will he put words in your mouth?
We do not even have to go. I have told you, the situation room, the women, the elders, or God, the religious leaders, they made many trips to us, between us and Museveni. We even prepared the memoranda. But he said, I want to meet the VSJ. Then they get photographed, and he says these things have been finished.
No, that's not true.
Because that was his demand.
By the way,
Chris,
you were not part of the committee. The committee that Museveni formed up comprised
Dr. Besigye makes an
Rukutana
important ask. He says, what kind of transition should we have? We need to discuss that. And I want to give him the benefit of doubt that he means that what kind of transition should we discuss? And that does not limit it within opposition or within FDC. In my view, we should expand the discussion and say, NRM, is it lost that you cannot have any discussion which is meaningful,
okay, first of all,
even compromising on certain
first of
things
all, President
with the other opposition guys?
President Yoweri Museveni has never refused the discussions with anybody. On the contrary, it is Honorable Semuju's party, the FDC, that has had Museveni phobia, the fear to meet him. But he is on record saying he can discuss and negotiate and engage with anybody. But them who have been refusing to go to IPOD, even I think it was 2006 or 11, when the president, immediately after elections, invited all political parties, and FDC refused. Say, we don't want to go and take tea. But why don't you go there and refuse the tea and make your point? Secondly, the Constitution, I was not in the CA. There is a chapter 18 in the Constitution of Uganda that talks about amendment.
Those are amendments.
You know, it is very interesting. The opposition has brought amendments in the parliament. So when the opposition team brings amendments, proposals for amendments, it is okay. But when the government proposes amendments, then you are killing the Constitution. Let's not have double standards. The Constitution of Uganda is amendable, and there is nothing which stops any Ugandan from proposing an amendment, provided you follow the channels which are stipulated in the Constitution on how you can amend those articles which can be amended. 3, the transition will happen. President Yoweri Museveni is not a metal, is not God, is a human being. But for now, he still enjoys the support and the confidence of Ugandans. He has not stopped anybody from vying for the position of a president or any other. At the risk of repeating myself, he has not even gone through unopposed at any of the elections we have had in the last number of years. People come, they compete with him. How will the transition come? First of all, like I said, the Constitution is clear that after every 5 years, we shall have regular,
violent elections
and fair elections. And to disagree with Sarah, if the elections we have had haven't been free or fair, court would have nullified the results, but they have not. They have upheld. There are countries where they have nullified and they will repeat, and those provisions are there in our Constitution. Therefore, to a large extent, they have been free and fair. That's why they are upheld. So the Constitution doesn't bar anybody from contesting. Now, we are in a multi-party dispensation. And when the time comes, each party will discuss within its own house which candidate it will field. If the NRM party feels they want to field the President Yoweri Museveni, what would you do? If FDC says we are now fielding Honorable Semuju, they will field him. If NUP says we are fielding who, and then you go into the playing field. If that one is not democracy, so what is a democracy? Unless you want to say democracy, now we change the definition to say removing Museveni equals democracy. But who removes Museveni? It is not the message to tell us how the transition should happen. It is Ugandans in totality who will manage their affairs through casting their ballot and choosing whom they want.
Okay.
Whom they want.
We are now into midnight. And
but if Dr. Besigye thinks he should be installed as the president, therefore we shall have gone democratic, I don't think that's what the majority of Ugandans think.
Okay.
If he wants to be president, he has to face the population. Okay. Like Honorable Semuji wanted to be an MP, he had to face the population and
Kira municipality. Good. We need to now start thinking of concluding. But Sarah, the point that Dr. Chris Baremunsi raises a very significant points. The kind of democracy we want to have. It brings me to the question of what kind of discussions should we really be having. I have argued that is it possible for anybody in the world to wish themselves out of power on their own? And you have said rightly that it should be through the Constitution. But here is a team on the other side called the NRM that says for us, even if our captain is 45 years, others retire at 30, we think he wins the game for us. But you are on this side, the opponents are arguing that no, we don't want that player on the other side. And then it brings in this issue of we cannot debate. It is, you know, either or kind of discussion. So what kind of really discussion should this country be having? What kind of democracy? Are we just stuck? How do we get out of that, you know, place?
You know, Charles, talk is cheap. We can sit here and say Uganda is democratic. Even as you go back to the first topic of marketing Uganda, you type on your phone Uganda and go to the images. What images does the internet bring? You will see police beating people. You will see military on the streets beating, including journalists. You will see people bleeding. Just type Uganda and go on images. So what country are we talking about? What is democracy? I have heard some people saying maybe we should redefine our democracy. I don't know whether they intend to say democracy standards are too high for us to meet. We should lower our standards. Democracy is clearly defined. Was defined by the Greek in the 12th century. It is known. We had democracy in our traditional setup systems. It is not foreign, as some people claim. The standards are clear, known to everybody.
Uganda gives me Bwindi Impenetrable, Queen Elizabeth National Park, Maxwell Falls, Kampala, Lake National Park.
Can I just
so
make
it's not true that Uganda, when you Google it, it will give you beatings and what. And then the flag of Uganda.
What does yours bring?
I wanted to spare Sarah and go to another search. Is Uganda a safe country?
No, you say is Uganda democracy?
Because when you Google Uganda, you find country in East Africa. It is landlocked in East Africa and with Rwenzori Mountains and immense Lake Victoria. Then the next wildlife, Bwindi Impenetrable, Queen Elizabeth, Machison Falls, Kampala, Lake Mburo. Then the third stage it goes to is Uganda a safe country? What language is spoken in Uganda?
Okay, what does Uganda safe country say?
So maybe I should go to what is Uganda a safe country?
Okay, but Charles, let's go back.
Then it says Uganda is a very safe country. But opportunistic crimes such as petty theft, credit card fraud, and home robbery occur, just like any other country. And then it says chances of being a victim are rare, and incidences would most probably be in cities like Kampala.
No, Charles, I get your point. Normally we search human rights in Uganda.
No, but I understand. This is really...
Human rights in Uganda.
Yeah.
Or you type the question we are debating, is Uganda democracy? What do you get? Normally we search human rights in Uganda, and that's like somebody concerned to know the health of the people. They will say human rights status in Uganda. What does it bring? Maybe you can also read for the viewers. What images does it bring?
Maybe I've now run
human
out
rights.
Sarah might have posted.
You have run out of.
No. What have I posted?
I've run out
I don't
of MBs.
control the internet. I don't control the internet. But what is our human right? Is Uganda a democracy?
Is Uganda a democracy? First, it brings the institutions, civic
it will bring parliament institutions, but to go to
Citizens Coalition for Electoral Democracy, Forum for Women in Democracy, Westminster. Then is Uganda a democratic government? Is Uganda a free country? In the Freedom in the World 2020 report, Freedom House identified Uganda as a country considered to be, in quotation, not free. There are several areas of concern when it comes to human rights in Uganda, and the not free classification is due to both low political rights and civil liberties rankings. That's what, among other things.
Yes, commonly we search human rights in Uganda. It's why you will get all these images. But we don't need images. What happens in Uganda? What happens in Uganda? You look at the elections that maybe the new front, the Front for Transition is contesting. What was the nature of the elections? It was, Kampala on 18th and 19th November was like Kosovo, or even worse. We have documentaries, including BBC. The world watches.
Yeah.
So, if you say that this is a normal election, that the framers of the Constitution...
Christianity, we talk over the original sin. What caused the Kampala sin you are talking about?
Life presidency.
So you have to go back to it.
Life presidency.
Was it just in Kampala? How many times? You know, we have many people claim that Kizabes is chaotic, the people power team are chaotic. But we have a person whom everybody agrees is peaceful. But Mujisha Muntu campaigns were disrupted more than 20 times. So even it is not the usual crime of branding people chaotic. Even people who are not known to be chaotic could not campaign freely in the last elections.
Okay.
So we do not have this. Way forward is Ugandans know what they want. And people who think the silence of Ugandans should be taken for granted will one day be surprised. Ugandans have fought dictatorships. It is very unfortunate that for 6 decades, because we marked 59 years, we are just a few months shy, 11 months and days now shy of 6 decades. That for 6 decades, in Uganda, nobody can hand over power peacefully to another. There are other countries we got independence within the same period, more or less. Ghana got independence in 1958, so just a difference of 4 years. But how far ahead are they with us? We also got countries in Africa that had independence, like Somalia in 1960.
So Ghana a first world country?
It is, but it is, of course, it is better
first
than
world
us.
country.
It is a middle-income class with stable political climate, stability, predictability, and happy people. It does not have tear gas all over the street, and I think because of COVID pandemic, even the tear gas you purchased could have expired.
Uganda is one of the countries with a high happiness index, by the way. You Google, you are the one who likes Googling. You Google the happiness index. The national happiness index.
I know we top charts in taking alcohol and others, but that's why we are discussing democracy today. Maybe that's because of the frustrations of the people. So what we need to do is, we know what a basic election is. We were even moving in the civil society discussions to say, do we need to define elements of an election so that once we fall short, even that exercise is not referred to as an election? That is the discussion we are having as citizens of this country, because of falling short of bare minimum standards that are expected in elections.
Semujo, way forward, the FDC, no, the front says that within the next 3 weeks, you're going to plan what needs to be done as the action points, implementable action. Way forward, with that in mind, what is the way forward on how to discuss, what type of discussion the transition should take?
The front, first of all, we're still speaking to
other opposition members?
Not opposition, because this has nothing to do with the opposition.
Okay.
We are speaking to civil society, we are speaking to religious leaders, because it is easier, and they have done it each time it is us leading. You will be demonized like Chris is attempting here. We think this country must have a discussion on how to peacefully end Mr. Museveni's rule. And if that doesn't happen, we will all be victims, I can assure you. People who are dying in Somalia, we are not yet born when Siad Barre was a leader. They are now the ones who are paying the price. So we have a duty as leaders. I remember at the beginning of this parliament, the speaker said he will put aside some hours to discuss the topic, the Uganda we want. I hope that this discussion will eventually come.
We actually have an organization, a WhatsApp group. We started about 5-6 years ago called the Uganda We Want. So for us, we shall be already on the way of discussing that.
So people like my friend here, Chris, can pretend that things are okay. But they know deep inside their heart that things are not okay. I mean, which country where someone who holds known office, like General Sari, and you have vice president, prime minister, everybody, they go to him for money, for opportunity, just because he's a brother of the president, and Chris wants us to be happy. That everybody now is on his way to Guru. Is on his way to Guru. And that is the democracy he's talking about. Elected leaders. So you don't know where he is. No, you go and ask your supervisors. They are on the road going to Guru.
You go to kill yourself because the General Sare is in the Guru.
I don't have to kill myself, but I aspire to have a country that is governed properly, not a country that is governed by a family. That's what I aspire. For you, if you don't care, me, I care.
Honorable Chris, finally, way forward on this.
Well, the way forward is clear. We have all the necessary instruments to guide the politics, to guide what happens. It is not true that you can't foretell the future, and the future is not predictable, unless if you don't believe in the constitution which we are using to govern this country. We shall have elections in 2026, and Ugandans will be free to participate. So for us, we insist that the Ugandan is out there. You see, sometimes somebody sits here and say, Ugandans are not happy. As if you yourself, you are Ugandans. The Ugandans are out there. They have just expressed their happiness or lack of it through elections by voting the people they wanted. If you want to look at the transition, look at the attrition rate in the parliament, over 70%. You're a member of parliament, people vote you out. You're a district chairperson, people vote you out. Even the president can be voted out if people have lost confidence in that president. So democracy is there. I don't know why these people are fearing the will of the people. So I just want to still insist that the constitutional framework that we have guarantees the rights of everybody to participate.
It's like going in the ring for boxing, and one of the boxers has a panga. And he says, why are you fearing boxing? This is what Chris is doing.
No.
The ring is there for all of us to participate, but one boxer has a panga and he says, why are you fearing boxing? You come.
You see, these people...
These are the elections that we are having here.
These people, you talk of... Let's go to LC elections which we held. Who was holding a panga in LC elections?
The captain of that team.
No. Was Museveni in every village? In every village of Uganda. How many LC chairpersons did your party win? You go to LC5.
In Egypt,
How,
the last election that Hosni Mubarak presided over, the opposition got 0. In Tanzania, they have one MP, one opposition MP.
When?
After this election.
This is Uganda, not Tanzania, not Arab countries. Because if you are saying, how did you win to become an MP? Do you think you are so intelligent that if you are saying that the government suppresses all candidates and forces its way?
On my nomination, I was kidnapped and driven to nomination by the military.
So if you are saying that because you are given an impression that the government or NRM or President Museveni decides who becomes the leader anywhere in this country, including LCs and so forth. So do you think you are super clever to have defeated that might of government? The point I am making is that Ugandans are free to choose the leaders they want. Like they left Nup in their constituency and voted you because they think you are, and I believe and I agree with them, you are a very effective member of parliament. You can see the members of parliament we lose in over 70% of members of parliament lose, including NRM MPs, and they are defeated by opposition. So are you saying President Museveni and NRM don't have that coercive element to make sure that we, the NRM MPs, win? So you see, you can think that the public or Ugandans probably don't understand, but they know. They know that they have the power, and that's the argument Message keeps saying. Ugandans don't have the power, they are not governing, they are not in charge of their country. Ugandans know they have the power to remove a leader or vote him, if he's an incumbent, to vote him back or remove him. And that's what we are going to follow. What I would advise Honorable Semuju and Kiza Message and the rest is for you to mobilize the people so that in 2016, 2026, you are stronger than the way you are now. And then we go into the boxing ring, Ugandans will decide. But for any thoughts that you will use a constitutional means to topple government, do you think for us who are in the government, we shall just clap for you to remove us like that without going through elections or constitutional means?
You prepare to serve cappuccino and you sit with them?
No, absolutely. We have many platforms. We have Parliament. Parliament is one platform where we debate these issues. There is iPod. It's another framework where parties can discuss. But these people are allergic to discussions.
Thank you very much. I would have wished that the discussion goes on because it was just getting more interesting. But unfortunately, we have to close. We have overshot our time.
Charles,
yeah.
I did show you human rights in Uganda, and you see the images.
Someone sent a message saying that Google is Google gives you answers that you ask for. That is Rugendo sent me a message saying, you tell my friend Sarah that Google gives you, you only ask it the type of question you want, and then it gives you the answer.
Somebody once said Google is controlled by NRM.
Human rights in Uganda.
Yeah, because you asked human rights.
Yes.
But
yes.
that is okay. That's okay. Thank you so much, Honorable Dr. Chris Baramusi, Minister in charge of ICT and National Guidance. Thank you very much, Honorable Semuju Ibrahim Nganda, Kira Municipality MP. I want to thank you so much, Sarah Birete, as Executive Director of the Center for Constitutional Governance. And out there, those who listen to us, who watch this show, we want to really appreciate you and thank you for being part of this show every Wednesday. We will continue and endeavor to bring you the best, the most relevant guests, as we always try to. And where we fall short, please just appreciate maybe the circumstance that we are dealing with, but we shall always try to give you the best. From the team here, I want to say thank you, and God bless you all. Be safe. Remember that COVID still exists, so take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye. God bless you. Good night.
Join us from Monday to Friday for Good Morning Uganda with me, Felix Mkunda.
Priscilla Naluoga.
Robert Chirabo.
Molen Kenyana.
Ruben Mpimba.
With all the morning's essentials.